Hey, good morning. My name's Rich, and this is That Interacting podcast. With me today is Jack Nove, who's a Sustainability Coordinator at TechBuyer. I've worked with Jack for about a year, and we're going to talk about frameworks, specifically about B Corp and what that looks like for businesses and the value and maybe some of the more controversial topics that are going on in the ecosystem around this at the moment. So, Jack, give us a brief 2 minutes on who you are.
So I'm Jack Nove. As Rich said, I've been working at TechBuyer for about a year now. My background was initially in kind of communications and marketing, but over the last 2 years, I've been looking at sustainability through a master's at Leeds University last year, and then currently through all the work that TechBuyer and Interact are doing. Focusing on a few things at TechBuyer and kind of reporting and measuring and kind of managing what we're doing, as well as communicating that to the public as well. And part of that was the B Corp assessment that TechBuyer and Interact have done.
All right, so you've got a little bit of insider knowledge on this sort of thing. Jack did 2 B Corp impact assessments,
Mhm.
both for businesses, so he's probably more up to date on this, on the actual process than I am. So, in a nutshell, we're specifically looking at B Corp today. So, what is it? What does it do? Like, what's the process look like? And then we'll probably delve a little bit into benefits, negatives, and some maybe controversial topics around it. So kind of what is it in a nutshell, mate?
Yeah, so it's a movement that started in America probably about 10, 12 years ago to try and make business a bit better, I guess they call it. So the B in B Corp stands for benefit, and it's designed to make business create more value for generally for society and the environment. It's based around the issue that business is generally designed to create profit for its shareholders rather than its stakeholders, and it's kind of aiming to kind of change that. So the impact assessment itself looks at 5 different areas. So it will look at your impact on kind of workers, on your community, on the environment and the customers, and then it will look at how you go about governing your organization as well to maintain your kind of standards. And yeah, there's quite a lot of questions to kind of work through there. And it's a multiple choice, largely multiple choice. So it does ask quite a lot of kind of crucial questions, but I think there are some definite challenges that come with doing everything via a multiple choice system. But yeah, as a nutshell, I guess.
Okay, so what's the benefit of it? Like, what's good about it? Because let's give a balanced view on it. So
Yeah,
you're kind of looking at some key areas. Do you think it covers all areas of sustainability in regards to the key bits? Not every aspect in granular detail, but do you think it kind of covers the overarching themes?
it does a good job of it. I think it's, as I say, I think you're always going to struggle to capture everything in a multiple choice question, because in sustainability, obviously things kind of interact with each other, and it's hard to kind of ask set questions that are going to apply to every single thing. It's also a really fast moving area, so it would be kind of impossible to capture everything. But given that it wants to scale as quickly as it does, and that it's run by a non-profit, I think it does as good a job as it can do in that area. Um,
Okay. So you think kind of the coverage is okay? It's
yeah,
certainly better than nothing, right?
definitely better than nothing. Yeah, I
Definitely
think
better than nothing.
that's yeah.
Okay. So what the actual process then? It's quite long. It's quite arduous. I remember one thing when we were looking at it and when we did it as Interact. One of the key ones was changing of articles of association.
Yeah,
So actually, your actual legal documentation has to change from a shareholder outcome to a stakeholder outcome.
yeah,
And
exactly.
I actually thought that was really useful. What were your thoughts on that?
For me, that's the biggest best thing about the B Corp movement. For me, it's a bit of a controversial topic for some people, but I think that focus on kind of your shareholder primacy is one of the biggest issues standing in the way of corporate sustainability, because it encourages businesses to focus on short-term like financial value rather than long-term value created for the stakeholders. Sorry, and the stakeholders could include, obviously that includes your shareholders, but it also includes your employees, it includes your customers, includes your local community, but it also includes the environment as well, and not just in the short term. So once you change that kind of focus for what you're aiming to achieve in a business, I think that's how you create real value through business, not just short-term financial. So for me, that's the one big thing that B Corp delivers. And because it's in the Articles of Association, as you say, it is kind of legally binding, although a slight limitation there, I guess, is that the company could go and change it again in the future if they change their mind. But it's definitely a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit of a hassle, to be honest. So even on like a new company like Interact, it was a bit of a hassle. So I think there has to be some commitment, even just to
Yeah,
go through that small pain in the ass, if I'm honest.
Yeah, that's true.
So talk about limitations. So, it's better than nothing. And we've identified that there's some bits that are quite good. It covers quite a few things. The assessment process is a bit arduous, a bit long, and maybe has limitations around, like you said, multiple choice. But what's good about it? What's useful about it? And not just B Corp, but frameworks in general? Like, where's the value? What how does this help us get better? How does this help us to move towards a better business, I suppose?
I think there's a few ways. Few ways. The actual assessment tool itself, the BIA, the benefit impact assessment, it's a really good tool that you can use to break down exactly where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are. It gives you potential areas for improvement with recommendations. And this is completely free to use, and there's no commitment to even go down the route of certifying as well. So it's used by like over 150,000 companies around the world have used the impact assessment, and only a tiny fraction of those actually have gone on to be B Corps. So I think that in itself is a really good way for businesses who are already looking for ways to improve to actually identify those and see what other businesses have done. So for me, that's really good. And the benchmarking element of it was something that was useful for Interact and for TechBuyer. I also like that it builds a community. No one person or business has all the answers in this area, and what's useful is being able to share ideas and discuss topics with people who have gone through similar processes, had similar problems, and you can share your insights and your findings, I guess. And I think that's a really big benefit of the B Corp movement, specifically when you actually get certified, is when you get into the community. But they do run other events and have things online as well. I like that it from an external perspective, I guess, that you can see what other businesses have done. So when a business gets certified, they will have a transparent report of their scores where they did well, and that will all be on the B Corp directory. I think that's good. I think transparency and reporting is one of the big things that's kind of
Yeah.
traditionally been lacking in corporate sustainability, specifically with consistency as well. Some businesses do put sustainability reports out, but they omit certain things that don't make them look good. But when it's being done by B Lab and they're actually putting it out there on the directory consistently across all businesses, I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, it makes sense. What what does it mean though? I mean, realistically, like, it's a little badge with a B in it.
Yeah,
Like, is this just another way of, presenting a face to the world, or do you think there's more to it than that?
I think I think there is a bit more to it because it is a long process, and to get that the score you need to certify and pass the audit process, and then continue to stay a B Corp, because you've got to show continuous improvement. It does show that you're not only doing well, but you're committed to doing better than you're currently doing. So I think it is a stamp for consumers to see, yeah, that business actually cares, and they're kind of walking the talk on that as well. They're not just saying they're doing good stuff. Um, but there's always going to be a limitation with these things, and it's not a badge that says this business is sustainable. It's the badge that says this business is doing its best to work towards doing better. I think in most cases it's not saying that this is an incredible business that's perfect. And I think that's part of the challenge, I guess, is that when some companies' marketing teams have got hold of it, they've really run with it and said, look at this means we're perfect. And it's almost it does invite greenwashing, I guess, in certain circumstances. Although I do think B Corp, the B Lab themselves are quite good at kind of addressing that and putting reviews in place. So yeah, it's definitely a mixed bag, but I
Okay.
think it's, as you said earlier, it's a lot better than nothing.
I think so. I mean, I'm always about making things better, and
Yeah,
I think when I look at some of the companies that are on there, a lot of them are quite small, to be honest, which means that, as is pretty common, these sort of things are normally grassroots led.
yeah,
So it does tend to be that these small businesses with purpose are kind of all aligning and working together, which I like. I like the community piece that you alluded to. I think that's really good. But there's some pretty big companies which have come under fire recently that are B Corps. That, do you think they've damaged the reputation of that particular movement, that community, and that potential badge? I'm talking about things like BrewDog and like Nespresso, who are a subsidiary of Nestle. Now, these are companies that certainly recently have had quite major scandals, whether it's to do with people, whether it's to do with, human rights violations, or whether it's to do with like water and raw materials and resources, such as in the case of Nestle. What does it mean when these companies can get certified to say that they're a business that's, focused on doing good, and yet there's huge problems? What do you think about that?
yeah. It is a real issue, and I think personally, from what I've seen, the BrewDog as the example that I've seen quite a lot of, I think they have damaged the reputation in the UK at least of what a B Corp is.
Yeah.
I It's hard to say because obviously we haven't seen exactly what's gone on inside the businesses, but from what I've heard, yeah, it does sound like there's been quite a lot of issues there that really that should have come up during the assessment process or the audit. But what B Lab have been quite transparent about is saying, yes, like we might have got something wrong here. We're going to put a review in place, and the results are actually due that this month. And then we will assess whether they should still be a B Corp, which areas they need to improve, and then we'll also look at how we can improve our processes, which
Okay.
I really respect. I mean, they've never come out and said we are a perfect system. It's always something that they're looking to improve as they scale. And as you say, it started off because it's a lot easier. It started off looking at businesses that are a lot smaller, and that generally speaking, it's kind of good businesses in inverted commas who are looking to do a bit better.
Yeah.
But if you just always focus on those businesses, you're never going to make a large impact because it's those good businesses aren't the ones who really are causing the problems. So if B Corp's going to have any sort of impact, it needs to look at bringing on some bigger businesses. But unfortunately, those bigger businesses do have skeletons in the closet. So it's a case of trying to bring those on board and improve the process so you can iron out those issues, identify any problems. It's not going to be kind of plain sailing the whole way, but I think they are moving in the right direction. But yeah, it might be a bit of a bumpy journey at times when things like this come out. But as long as they deal with it transparently and appropriately, which it seems like they are doing, again, depending on what the outcome is this month, I think it is still going in the right direction.
Right, what's your thoughts on the Nespresso one then? So Nestle, for those that kind of aren't aware of this, have been kind of pinged recently for some significant issues around human rights violations in sort of their supply chain, things like that. For one of their brands, which is fundamentally a throwaway coffee brand that's producing a ton of environmental waste in the form of like waste aluminium on the capsules, is that damaging, or what? Well, give me your thoughts on it. What do you think?
Um, I think it is. I guess for a very different reason, as you say, it's not looking down the social side. It's more material, which is far more quantifiable. So if the waste there, you would think should be prohibitive to them actually getting the B Corp certification in the first place. And I think it comes down to an element of twisting the truth, I suppose, because they could put out the and again, I'm kind of guessing on this one because I haven't followed the story closely, but there could be a point of them saying, yeah, well, these capsules are 100% recyclable. The question then is actually, are they recycled? And it's there's certain ways of kind of manipulating the truth there to make something seem a bit greener than it is.
Yeah.
So there could be an element of that that's come into play. But again, yeah, it's something to be honest, I personally need to look into that one a little bit more because I don't know it as well. But it does seem as though that's a large waste stream that really can't be ignored for a company that is claiming to be quite sustainable.
What do you think? I guess my thoughts on this is that if they're aligned to B Corp because they want to be better, that's better than doing nothing.
That's certainly true. And it,
Because it
I,
shouldn't be just about businesses that are built from the ground up for purpose. This should be about looking at what you do as a business and saying, how do we either align it better socially or from a governance point of view or from an environmental point of view?
mm,
Because I think there's a piece where you also don't want this to be about how virtuous you are as a business and like, oh, I've created a business that's entirely environmental. This could be a useful yardstick potentially for a business that is maybe seen as a less than ideal business, but that's trying to limit the impact of what they do. And I
yeah,
suppose that's super positive, isn't it?
yeah, I totally agree with that. I guess the kind of, to play devil's advocate there, they could still go down that process but not achieve a score high enough to certify,
Okay.
and then have kind of goals put in place to help them get to a position where they are deemed kind of sustainable enough to reach the score of 80 to certify. Because when you put your first score in, they will then have an audit process, and more often than not, your score will come down a little bit, and they will then work with you to see how you can improve it. I think for businesses like that who might not necessarily be having the impact they want to, but are looking to improve, that's an opportunity there for B Corp to say, look, we really appreciate that you've got the desire to improve. We think we can put together a roadmap for you to get there, but not necessarily give them that badge, because I think once you start putting that B Corp stamp on businesses that are kind of noticeably having a damaging impact, it then removes a bit of the benefit for the other businesses that
Yeah.
have that same stamp. So it's about finding that kind of balance, I guess. But certainly, I don't think we want to say you can only join the movement or get involved at all if you are perfect, because it's not going to go anywhere. Then it'll just be a kind of an echo chamber of businesses who are already having a good impact, which isn't
I think
really
that's
useful.
exactly right. You don't want everyone that thinks the same, speaking the same,
No.
trying to create the same outcomes, because that's just going to limit the impact. So, all right. So to wrap it up, then, so if you were a business who was looking to do something useful in this field, would you recommend B Corp, and how would you go about it?
100% I'd recommend it. Even if you don't necessarily want to go down the certification route, that there is no harm in looking at the benefit impact assessment. It's free to use online, and it is time consuming. I'm not going to lie, it takes quite a while to go through, especially if you want to put together all the documentation. But if you just want to go through and look at how your business is doing compared to other businesses in your sector of the same size or in the same region, it will benchmark that for you. It will give you areas that you can improve. And as I say, there's no cost at all for that. So I don't see why businesses wouldn't do that. And then obviously you could look at the certification afterwards, if you think that's a good route to go down. But certainly as a starting point, I don't really see any downsides for doing it, because I found it useful for Tech Buyer and for Interact.
Oh, useful. All right. Well, thanks very much for your time today, Jack. I really appreciate it, and we'll catch up with you soon when we get the report from Brewdog, maybe, and have another conversation then.
Yeah, sounds good. Cheers.
Nice one. Thanks, mate.
Thanks.